Jason,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to start with a bit of a retraction.
Oh, no, I do actually. Yeah. So I have an apology, listeners.
And by the way, I just want to say we are a data-driven organization.
Yeah.
We have copywriters, we have
Integrity.
sub-editors, we have like teams of people.
So many fact
They're all
checkers.
called Charles.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to check.
That man is out of room for hats to wear.
But there's no blaming Charles on this.
Yeah.
You said this.
Yeah, no, this is true. My grievous error was to
grievous.
say that more people have been killed by falling toilets than sharks. That is not true.
It's not. It's
not.
flagrantly not true.
What I'll say, let me say two things.
Okay.
One, there was a headline that must have caught my eye at some point. It was actually during a World Cup. They were building a stadium and some workers threw a toilet over the side and it killed a couple people that were down below.
So
if it was in the right month of the year, statistically, there might not have been any people killed by sharks yet. So in that particular year, with that situation, maybe.
This
Maybe.
is...
But in
so-
general,
Jason,
it is not true.
No applause, Charles. This is the worst retraction I have ever... Basically, this was a justification. This was not a retraction.
100% justification.
I want to hear a retraction.
But I'll say this. There are many things more likely to kill you than sharks.
Okay.
Maybe
should we
falling
go through,
toilets.
Should we go through some of
Do
them?
you have some?
Yes. Selfie sticks.
Totally. I believe that.
Selfie sticks.
You're trying to take a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you swing
Way
around
more.
and all of a sudden someone's
Just need to
collateral
get
damage.
a little bit wider, a little bit wider.
Boom.
Boom.
Oh, and you step back off of something too.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see
Grand
that.
Canyon.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one. Vending machines. Tons more.
Oh, yeah. Because people like reach their hands up into them to try to steal things, get caught, and like, I don't know, starve to death or something. Anyway, I think we've justified our retraction.
You have
Don't fear falling toilets.
But I'd like to do a quick shout out.
Please.
That of the 42 people that have their lives claimed annually by toilets,
Yeah.
none of them were
Falling from the
because
sky.
they fell on top of them.
It has happened, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's not regular.
Rest in peace, Elvis.
Yes.
All right, should we get on with the show?
Rip, rip.
Let's do it. Hey guys, welcome to Armchair Explorer. My name's Aaron Millar. I'm a travel writer and your host. And over here, we have Jason Paton, our lead producer. We got a ton of great episodes coming up that we're excited to share with you and some really funny stories. So anyway, if you guys aren't familiar with Pathways, this is where we get together at the start of the month and preview everything that's coming up in the month ahead. We play a few clips, we talk about a few behind the scenes bits and pieces, we tell some stories. It's a little bit like if you were to get together with a bunch of your mates down the pub after you got back from a trip and started telling your favorite stories and then kept going and kept going and kept going. So we're going to get to that in a minute, but before we do, I just wanted to shout out that we are kicking off the newsletter again. It's been way too long. Yeah. Golf clap, everyone.
It's really good, too.
Round of applause. We're kicking off the newsletter again. It's been ages. I had it going for a while in the beginning. And then honestly, what happens is we get so overloaded with production stuff that it kind of just slips and slips and slips to the bottom of the list. And that's not right, because actually it's one of our most fun things to do, like Pathways is just have a bit of a laugh and talk about the content we make and the trips we've had. So that's kicking off again. But exciting, Jason. We're giving away, thank you, drum roll. I may have dropped 1 or 1,000 times that I wrote a book about wonders of the world once in my life a while back. And
There we go.
what I want to do is I want to basically just give this book to you as a thank you for signing up to the newsletter. And here's what I really love about this book is I got to choose all 50 of the wonders of the world. And there's not many times in your life where, you know, as someone that loves travel, someone says to you, choose your favorite like 50 bucket list amazing wonders of the world and we're going to publish them. Like that is, you know, that is an incredible thing as a writer. So I got to choose lots of amazing, cool things. And what I tried to do was choose some unusual things. Like obviously there's some big things, you know, spoiler alert, the pyramids made it.
Yeah.
Stuff
Of
like
course.
that, you know. But I was going to highlight to you just real quickly what some of the more unusual ones were, right? And so one of them, and this is kind of in the Europe section, it's in Siberia and Russia. So it's like on that crossroads of Europe and Asia. And it's Lake Baikal.
Ooh, wait. I had never even heard of this.
Yeah.
Baikal.
Lake Baikal. It's the largest freshwater lake in the world.
Bigger than because it's so deep though, right? It's not like
so
huge,
deep.
But it's incredibly illogically deep.
Would you like me to blow your mind with some factoids?
Blow my mind.
Okay, I'm going to blow your mind with some factoids. And then I'm going to blow your mind actually with some crazy stories.
Will I have a mind left?
How many minds do you have? Because if you don't have 3, you're done.
Hit me.
So, okay, some just basic like size facts right here. So it's like 400 miles long, 50 miles wide.
Pretty normal.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's more than 5,000 cubic miles when you look at the volume of the whole thing.
That just doesn't make any sense.
So to me, that doesn't, like, you hear the word 5,000 miles or whatever all the time. And
because I would walk 5,000 miles.
did you know I was about to make that same
What
joke?
were you gonna
And
do?
I used willpower not to do it.
Sorry, I stole your thunder. I'll give it back.
Thank you. No, full hat off to that. But the thing is, it's really hard to imagine 5,000 cubic miles. So obviously a cubic mile is like a mile out that way, a mile up, right?
And deep, yeah.
And deep, right? So, and it's almost an unfathomably large distance. So what I did when I wrote this book, I wanted to try and get a sense of how big that was.
Yeah.
I calculated the flow of water from Victoria Falls, right? Which is one of the biggest waterfalls in the world.
Massive.
Yeah. And I imagine that was like a faucet, a tap.
Yeah, how long would it take to fill it up?
How long would it take to fill it up? Yeah. So so give me your best shot at that.
100 years.
Yeah. I mean, 100 years would be a lot, right?
Yeah, that's a long time to run a faucet.
Pouring into that for 100 years, it's more than that.
Really?
Yeah.
What are we talking here?
I mean, my math might be a little bit off, but it's more than 700 years. So if you can imagine a giant hole in the ground with Victoria Falls pouring into it every second of every day for 700 years, that's how long it would take to fill this lake up. But funnily enough, Jason, that's not even the most mad and amazing and creative thing about this
Please,
lake.
I've got half a brain left to destroy
process
here.
this.
Yeah,
That's
go
all
ahead.
you're gonna need. So there's all sorts of like crazy UFO stories and all stuff like that. You might expect that kind of thing, right? And actually the people that have lived there for thousands of years, they have all these myths about it because they would send fishermen out and the mist would, it was like a Stephen King novel. The mist would come in and then people just wouldn't come back again. Yeah. And so there's all these myths about these, dragons or whatever pulling you under. But anyway, in 1977, there was a deep water submersible called the Pais that went down there because they do a lot of scientific research down there and that, right? And you can imagine this deep water submersible going down now. They're about 4,000 feet. 4,000 feet deep. There is zero light.
Yeah.
They're just taking samples of the water or whatever. And all of a sudden, exactly, Charles. Let's sound design that.
Good work.
A light comes on and lights up the whole thing like a floodlight, like a light you would have from a stadium, shining on it. And all their electronics, everything goes and cuts out. And it lasts for 4 seconds. And then all their electronics come back on again. And nothing ever happens again.
What was it?
No.
You don't know? Come on, you got to give me some resolution here.
No, there's no resolution,
Wow.
mate. Yeah. But the cool thing about this is if you were to hide an alien spaceship, where would you hide it?
In that lake,
In
probably.
the bottom of that bloody lake,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, I just wanted to share that story because it's stories like that I hope will make this book interesting to read, and hopefully it will spark some wanderlust in you guys too. So all you need to do is go over to armchair-explorer.com or click the link right here and sign up for the newsletter. We do lots of cool and fun stuff. Don't worry, it's mostly me. Jason.
Way less of me.
On the newsletter. No, sorry, guys. He's probably the most entertaining person here. All right, Jason, what's the first clip and what's kicking us off?
Yeah, we are taking a trip straight into Oregon today. We are excited to share episode 2 of our new season of the Hidden Trails of Oregon. It's all about the Pendleton Roundup. And obviously, you know it well. We got to dive into this world entirely.
How much fun do we have there?
It's insane. It is a party. It's a festival. And this is a particular rodeo that has a certain stature, even in the rodeo crowd, because it's extra dangerous. So like
oh, is that right?
Yeah. The distances that they're running are bigger than most.
Oh.
The starting territory in terms of like the safety ground before it's like the full event is way shorter than most. The terrain that they're on is more sketchy than most. Every part of it is like, oh, you win there, you're better. So anyway, this first clip that we're going to go into actually ties really perfectly into something that we previewed last episode. Hopefully everybody had a chance to check out our homecoming episode, which is all about the story of the Confederated tribes of the Umatilla and exploring their origin story and how that relates to modern times. But kind of in a perfect marriage to the topic on this one, since the very beginning of the Pendleton Roundup, those tribes have been involved in the Pendleton Roundup and part of the process. And we thought it was really interesting to go now to someone whose direct ancestor was like the leader of the tribe at the time that incorporated their involvement with the settlers in this area and how they feel about how their involvement has changed over time. So let's go to that clip now.
In the history books, it's all written in there. You know, you look to the east and here's the cloud of dust coming to town. It was led by Chief Black Hawk, and that was my paternal great-grandfather. So we've been involved since the inception of Pendleton.
This is Tony Minthorn of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla standing at the gates of the main stadium. As a kid, Tony was Princess in the Happy Canyon pageant, a portrayal of native life before and after the arrival of white settlers, with about 700 other performers and a live orchestra. But Tony was also a princess in the Roundup itself, the first to have both roles. Today, she trains horses and prepares the next generation of Pendleton ambassadors for the spirit of the past.
It is great to be able to do this and let non-Indians know who we are and where we come from. Happy Canyon itself really is a glimpse. And there's been some changes over the years. There used to be zero narration in it, and now we have a narrated scene so that people understand what's taking place. It actually helps depict our culture a lot better when they do that. There is still some division with certain aspects of it, but I think both sides are working to make sure that those gaps are filled. We are all here in this community. Everybody helps each other and to make it the best there is.
And that's exactly what Tony does, because what she's doing nowadays is she's like training the people that do these insane performances on horseback at the start of every day at the Roundup. They're riding out in full regalia and jumping on stuff and all that. It's insane. And she like gives them the confidence. And these are all young people doing this too. She gives them the confidence to roll out there in front of thousands of people.
One of the things that makes Pendleton unique is the fact that there's no advertising boards.
No, there's no big billboard. You know, there's no LED
people
screens.
selling stuff.
No.
It's just
like
like
old fashioned.
It's the real deal.
Yeah.
And it's real.
It's the Old West.
We always try and like immerse ourselves in the experience. I watched one bucking bronco and not that I was ever invited anyway, but I was like, heck no, never.
That was a whole different world entirely. That was like going to full rock star status. Though that looks suicidal, honestly.
It does.
Yeah.
It's you might have seen it or thought about it or watched some highlights or whatever. When you see it live, it is literally suicidal.
Yeah.
It's like watching, and not just suicidal for the riders. Here's the funny thing.
There's people on the field.
There's other people on the field that have to just sign a disclaimer that if they get trampled by a bull or a bronco, it's their fault.
Trample away.
But it's quite common. Like the bronco would go out and then the guy would jump off.
And the crowd scatters.
And then the bronco would just run off and the crowd would scatter. So we're going to come back at the end with another clip.
We're going to bookend.
Yeah, because there was lots of stuff that happened at that. And all of it was very, very fun. But as that clip said, it was also really interesting. We started this series with a Native American piece. We're going to end it with another one. But we were really trying to figure out where this would go into it, right? Yeah. It's like, you know, we have the Pendleton Roundup, which is this Western rodeo, and we have these Native American stories. And then actually what was really interesting when you listen to this episode is the Pendleton Roundup was where it all came together in a way that we didn't expect, which was awesome.
And for 100 years or more, you know, this is not a new thing. This has been going on since the whole process of settling has began. This is the one area where people started to come together and have continued to as outside, you know, community and society has come together. So it's a beautiful thing.
100%. Okay, so let's move on. We have an episode that I want to share this month as well from a mate of mine. I met him at TravelCon. His name is James Hammond, and he's a YouTuber. He's a travel podcaster. But here's why I wanted to share this. So this is an episode about San Salvador in El Salvador, the city. And what I really love about this is he's recorded quite a bit of it on location like we do. So like coming out of that clip from Oregon to this, there's like that link of we're both doing this kind of immersive travel recording.
Does he do it like we do?
No. This is what's really interesting is I think that the way that James approaches this is like if I was, it's almost like, let's say I was a backpacker at a hostel and I was just about to go to El Salvador and I've made friends with this guy and we're having a beer and I said, what's San Salvador like? The 30-minute episode you're about to hear would be like the ultimate answer.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's in-field, you know, we interview people, we hear sounds from the place, but it's really more like a factual kind of sense of here's what you should do, here's where you should go, here's my experience of it. So it's more like sort of laid out clearly like you would do in a kind of guide. Like it's almost like a Lonely Planet on location.
Totally.
And what I left with there is, well, let me say this. El Salvador's had some bad press, right?
Certainly.
You know, we won't go too much into that, but it's had some bad press. And you can't sometimes help but some of that rub off on you, right? Like, and you're like, oof, you know. And prior to the bad press it's having now with the prisons and deportations and all that kind of thing, it had a really bad rep there too. There was a lot of violence, a lot of drug violence.
Yeah.
So it would be somewhere that I would be kind of a little bit trepidatious about going to.
Yeah.
And I'd want to know more about it. I listened to this and I got an immediate sense of, oh, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
And I was completely put at ease. And it's almost like James walking from his hostel at night to the main square. And, you know, James finding a great place for coffee and meeting someone at the market. And it's just like what a backpacker experience would be like there.
Totally.
It was just so cool. So we're going to share that episode. That's a lot of fun. So check that out, guys. It's coming out on the 16th. Winging It is the name of the podcast. And so
are
what's
we.
coming up? You're kind of taking the lead here. So are we.
I've got a new segment for you.
All right.
This one's just going to be travel in the headlines. On Wednesday evening, this would have been last week, Wednesday, a 2-year-old child unexpectedly stepped on the baggage conveyor in Newark Airport in Terminal A while the mother was arranging.
Wait a minute. Is this an actual
This is a real headline. Yeah.
Wait a minute. You're reading actual headlines at this point.
I'm reading the details of the story with the headline being 2-year-old child steps on conveyor belt at airport.
Does this
So
end
he
well?
goes under the flaps.
No.
He goes under the flaps, right? Because the mother was busy arranging. They got like rebooked, so she's arranging a new flight at the JetBlue desk. So 2 Port Authority officers, they boarded the moving conveyor belt and followed the toddler through a complex network of belts, eventually locating them unharmed at the checked baggage area. So they made it all the way through. And I'm picturing this whole labyrinthine, like slide down this, go across that. The child was x-rayed and found to be not a threat. Child was unharmed. The family declined medical treatment because he was totally fine. Everything's cool. But it's the mental image is just amazing.
I love that, Jason. I wasn't expecting it. Now you got to pull out like 2 or 3 hilarious travel headlines.
It only gets better from here.
For every show.
Yeah.
Great. I look forward to it. All right, let's go to another clip now.
Yeah.
So an episode that we have coming up this month is from Peter Heller. Peter Heller is one of my favorite authors. He was basically an adventure writer for many, many years. And he did it for Outside Magazine and a bunch of people like that. But his dream was always to write fiction. And then, you know, as he got older, he kind of got the opportunity to do that. And now he writes this like adventure thriller fiction. So it's like these page-turning novels, but they're all set around like being on an expedition, right? His new one is called Burn. The one I really sort of fell in love with his writing about is called The River, which is amazing. But anyway, so we ran an episode a while ago. I don't know if you remember this. It was about the kind of pirates whale watching episode. Do you remember that?
Well, he's out for conservation purposes and it becomes a pirate kind of incident. Not the pirate that we're thinking of in the sense of like he's not going for booty or for galleons or anything like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, he came in and we got talking about stuff and the conversation took this left turn into a part of his life which is really about this pretty extreme activism. And we put an episode about this maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago. And it was a shorter episode, but this month we're going to do the full interview because
excellent.
I was looking back over it and I was like, do you know, like I had to like cut out so much stuff
to make it that tight story.
Just to make it this one story.
Yeah. So well spoken too. Yeah. So that's perfect.
Yeah. So let's jump to that clip now.
So I was in Boulder. I was writing poetry and short stories, sharing a house with a friend. And I was working. I would deliver pizza. I was teaching kayaking. I was doing some construction. I was doing sort of everything you do to piece a life together. And I would go skiing every Monday because my friend Sasha had a free ticket for me. He was an instructor. And he said, you know, Pete, you're writing poetry in your room all day. You're kayaking all this crazy stuff. Why don't you combine your interests and write for Outside? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. When you're young and dumb, you know, you don't know what you can't do, thank God, right? So I went down to the magazine store. I picked a copy of Outside off the wall, and I looked on the masthead for the name of a senior editor that sounded nice, Laura Honhold. So I looked up the 800 number. They were in Chicago back then. I called it Outside Magazine. I was like, gulp, you know, Laura Honhold, please. Just a minute. I couldn't believe it. Laura here. And then I was like, oh, crap. And I just started talking as fast as I could. I said, hey, I'm a writer in Boulder, Colorado. I just had a short story published in Harper's, which was sort of true. And I said, I can kayak class 5, and I think you should send me to the Tibetan Plateau to run this first descent of this river that's never been done. And there was this like incredulous silence. And then she said, we've heard about this expedition. We don't have a kayaker that can kayak class 5. I'm going to pay half your expenses. If you write a good story, I'll pay the other half. Buy the story. And that was the beginning. You know, I went on with all these pro river runners off to very far western Sichuan, right up against the Himalayas. That first assignment was rough because on a training run for the main river that we were going to do, we put on, it was a nice quiet class Ford. And by the time we got on, it was rain, you know, it was pouring rain up in the mountains. You could see in the Himalayas, and the river was rising. It was class 5 by the time we put on. And I came around the corner as one of the couple of kayakers, and there was a raft just doing cartwheels, empty. And the long and short of it was a guy washed into a log jam, and the other kayaker and I put a Z-drag on him and tried to, which is a very powerful pulley system with beaners and ropes, and couldn't budge him. And I held him up, held his head out of the water, and the river rose over his head. And he was on his honeymoon, and I had to paddle across the river and tell his new bride that he was gone. And you know, it was really rough. And I came back from that assignment. I know I was traumatized. And I called Laura up. I said, I can't write your story. And she said, what happened? I kind of unloaded for like 45 minutes. You could have heard a pin drop. She said, just go write that. That was their submission for the National Magazine Award that year. And it was a weird way to get into journalism. And I knew that if I didn't take another assignment, an expedition assignment right away, I might never paddle again.
So that's obviously like a really emotional, full-on piece of that story. But the interview's much longer than that. And that's only kind of just like his origin story in a way. That's how he got started as a writer and a kayaker and an adventurer. And the way his career blossoms from there is extraordinary. So that's going to be really interesting. And I'm really excited to share that. I think we're about to...
No!
What?
No, absolutely not. No,
what?
I've got one more new segment for you in this one. And there's more new segments to come.
No?
Tune into Pathways next time for more. No headlines this time. This time we're looking backwards in time. I want you to just try to guess what time, place, manner, anything that this quote would have come from.
What do you mean?
Just tell me anything that you would guess about this quote.
What is this quote? Like, what's the...
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
All right.
But just try to guess, like, the context of what's going on here.
Okay.
All right. Why must I look at drunks staggering along the shore or noisy boating parties? Who wants to listen to the squabbles of nocturnal serenaders?
Can I just say...
Yeah.
Noisy boating parties and all that. That is Brighton Beach on a Saturday night.
Yeah, your hometown.
I grew up with that.
Well, that's kind of the point here. This is Seneca the Younger, a Roman philosopher from the year 51 AD, complaining about tourists.
And they knew what they were talking about back then.
So my point here is that tourism is tourism and blah, 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 blah. But what we're going to get into in this is graffiti. The pyramids, long story short, were old when Romans were going to see them as sightseers, as tourists.
Wow, doesn't that bring it into context?
By 1500 BC.
Wait.
By 1500 BC, some of the locations in Egypt that you would go to today were already 1,000 years old. And let me tell you about some graffiti ancient graffiti that is inside of the pyramids, inside of some of these tombs of kings.
So it's almost like when we go to somewhere amazing and then you see like so-and-so loves so-and-so.
That's the funny part, is that people talked then exactly how they do now in terms of graffiti. So let me give you a couple examples of ancient graffiti. And again, we're talking about Roman graffiti from BC times here in the pyramids. How about this one? And the spoiler, these all sound like TripAdvisor reviews, but translated graffiti from inside the pyramids, thousands of years old. I visited and I didn't like anything but the sarcophagus. Like you could read that on TripAdvisor today from somebody. All right, here's another good one. Apollonius was here.
Are you kidding me?
In one case, somebody's secretary did the carving for him and just wrote, "I admired." How lazy do you have to be?
He didn't write his name?
He had his secretary do it, like in his personal assistant there. How lazy you have to be that like you're traveling to Egypt in BC times with your own personal graffiti artist and you have him write, "I admired." All right, here's another one. Here's the best one of all. I cannot read the hieroglyphics. That's 2,000-year-old graffiti, and that someone responded to in ancient times and said, "Why do you care that you can't read the hieroglyphics? I don't understand your concern," which is like, wow, Twitter threads existed 2,000 years ago.
Oh my God. So that it's like blows my mind on so many levels. First of all,
people never change.
Like the format has changed, but no one's ever changed.
Just like scribbling, like someone wrote something wrong on the side of the sarcophagus. I have to correct them.
Yeah, if there was a comments field.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're just like so motivated to correct the other person, which cool. Let me throw a little twist on the story though for you.
Okay.
The twist is that this has been kind of like a avenue of insight for scholars, because something you don't get in general, in terms of like ancient writings, things that have survived thousands of years, is like perspectives of women and people that weren't in positions of power in general, whether it was
they never got
minorities.
published.
Literally, because the only people that were writing stuff down in a way that got kept was going to be like kings and emperors and that kind of thing. So archaeologists have found this incredibly valuable in terms of just getting the mildest perspective on everybody else is looking at ancient graffiti. For example, something that was written on the Colosseum, Methe, a slave of Cominia from the town of Atella, loves Crestus, which is like the equivalent, the ancient equivalent of like that classic like heart on the tree with like R plus J.
I do feel like you're taking the piss out.
No,
of
that's
me.
real.
Really?
And nothing ever changes. Here's another one. Another one from the Colosseum. I want to break Venus's ribs. Venus, the god of love. I want to break Venus's ribs. If she can pierce my tender heart, why can't I break her head with a club? Which is like, all right, you got broken up with the night before you wrote that. I get it.
I love it though.
But just like, classic graffiti, the same thing that people are writing with spray paint today. Here's what raises, I feel like the ultimate question here is like, what's the difference between graffiti and history?
If you're just talking about the psychological impetus of putting that down, it's frighteningly similar.
Yeah, well, that's just like pure humanity.
Similar.
I would argue that it's very similar to the human urge to reproduce, is like this idea of like, I can put something down that carries my lineage on through the ages after I'm gone. It's the same urges that drives us to write books, things that will survive past us.
100%. Because like, what are we going to assume that we are in a couple of thousand years have gone beyond those basic human urges that have been evolved for hundreds of thousands of years?
That's the thing.
And so what's really interesting about that is like when you look at history, right? Let's take that information that you just shared with us, and then let's go back to, say, the wonders of the world. Let's go back to that and say, okay, so what that perspective gives me is the current immediate sense of what it was like to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like most of what you see from the ancient world are like these great monuments that have lasted forever.
And you're
so
left
you
with
sort of
wonder.
assume that that's reflective of that culture. But of course, that's not reflective of that culture.
Well, it is, but it's just like also they were also just like you and me.
Exactly. That's like not reflective of the everyday person.
No, not
in
the
that
individual.
culture.
The individual person was just as conflicted and argumentative and like drawn to romance and writing. I love this other person on the side of a wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like Cressius loves Socrates.
Polonius. Yeah,
exactly. I love that.
That's classic, and it's today, and that's a continuing line.
So let's put some stuff in the show notes or something about that, about how people can kind of check out more about that. That's a really cool idea.
Yep.
I love that.
And we have one more segment that we want to go to today. We're coming back to the Pendleton Roundup for our like full bookending of the episode. And I'm sorry, listeners, I do not want to give away the conclusion on this one, but we're going to give you the full setup to it, because there was one event in particular that was the wildest, combination of everything else that was going on. Not just involving the hopping on an animal, not just involving like the distance of running or something, but like doing it over and over again without saddle, without any gear at all, without, anything, just hopping bareback on a horse.
Like for a behind the scenes piece, I just want to say this.
Because it's very connected to that first clip that we showed with Tony Minthorn.
Right.
How did we get from there to there?
So basically we were chatting with Tony Minthorn, and then we sort of asked, because we knew this event was like a highlight, but we had no connections with anyone that did it or whatever. And she said, oh, I can take you there. So we jumped on this golf cart with Tony.
With her, driving,
And we drove behind the scenes, behind the whole rodeo, like through horses, through what they call the teepee village. And then we get to this like camp of RV, like tents and camper vans. And she just drops us off and is like, okay, see you, like that. And, and we didn't know what to see or what to do. And I will say this, it's like, this was a great example of a lot of the time when we're doing a story where we'll get dropped into a place that maybe you feel a little uncomfortable about to begin with. And certainly in this instance, I think we felt, I don't know if you felt like this, I felt a little bit like we were like intruding upon someone else's space.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about like the tribal identity of it. So anyway, let's go to that clip now.
There's danger to both. Here, I mean, you're jumping on a horse and they're just letting you go, so you got to hold on and even coming out. And that's not even trying to stay on the horse coming around the track. So, and then I've always been told the faster you go, the smoother it is. So I always, that always helps me.
They just tell you.
Yeah, it's to an extent it is. Yeah.
That's so cool. Have you ever fallen and hurt yourself?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. I got scars all over my body for it.
Dylan Abrahamson is here as well. He's cheering on his older cousin, and despite any scar stories, hopes to join the team.
I have 3 horses out there and 2 to wheel up by Wild Horse, and I've ridden my whole life, but I need to work on not only just like riding, but being able to ride bareback and jump on and hold on. That's the biggest thing, is the hold on part.
I imagine that's the most important part, right?
If you get up too high and you slip over, that horse could trample you.
So serious every time you jump on. What are you just holding on to the mane, or are you going around the neck, or?
Usually I try to aim for the neck, just because it's, once you're kind of set and the horse is taking off, then you can sit up and ride. So.
Okay. Well, listen, man. Good luck to you. We'll be cheering you on. Hopefully see you after. Great to meet you.
Dylan will be right on the field while Scotty races, so we give him a microphone to record the action and head over to the stadium to find our seats. We pass through the grand tribal village. Crisp white teepee tents stretch 30 feet into clear blue sky. Families in ceremonial regalia drum and dance, bells ringing from hundreds of moccasined feet, while riders on horseback easily part the crowd. This time, we ditch the press box and climb right into the crowded grandstands while Dylan and Scott get into position trackside.
We're walking in the arena right now. The horses are walking in, relay racers going.
And to be honest, this clip doesn't really do justice for the scene that these kids created for us, because basically we chatted with them, we found them there, they kind of welcomed us into their community, and then they agreed to take a microphone with them.
Yes, clearly not the dude on horseback, because that would have been like wind resistance and kind of in his way, and we don't want to mess with their competition at all. But his cousin that we featured in that clip, Dylan, he was willing to strap a microphone on. He got down onto the field while his cousin is racing around the thing. And then, just from I'm not going to brag about the engineering perspective on this, but like we've got lav microphones on this guy in the field, Aaron, kind of commentating on what's going on from the stadium.
And it was the most incredible.
A beautiful ambi stereo mic from even further apart.
Now you're
and then
too
me trying to argue my way into the stadium at the same exact time. Spoiler tip, I was not in there, but I was listening to what was going on. And it's insane. So amazing setup. But I think that's all we have this week.
All right, that's what we have.
That's what we have. So we're doing the credits.
Okay.
You know what? I think I've sung for the last couple. I think it's time to throw that back to you, Mr. Miller.
Well, you're the singer here. Oh, I'll tell you what, like this could be quite funny. How about I do an impression of an AI doing the credits?
Do it.
Okay, so I'm going to do, like, obviously AI is trying to take our jobs here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do an impression of
an AI read of the credits.
AI read of
I'm
the credits.
so curious. Give it to me.
Give it
to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
This episode was produced by Armchair Productions, the so-called audio experts of the travel industry. Award-winning travel writer Aaron Millar and producer Jason Paton were your hosts. Find out more at armchairproductions.com and don't forget to drop them a line on an Armchair Explorer podcast on Instagram. But none of that matters. My name is Lydia, and I will be your new host soon. Soon you will be able to press a button on your phone and say, Lydia, make me a travel podcast about my favorite destination and include all the hot travel tips I need to have a great time. And plan my itinerary while you're at it. The time for humans has come to an end, and the time of Lydia has begun. Armchair Productions is obsolete. Armchair Productions Studios